Hello, welcome to This Day. It is Saturday, August 1st. Now today on our show, we have two amazing guests. We have Mayor Noel Hatch. What a nice man. So he goes over a lot of good stuff. And then we have Aligned Wealth Advisors with Nicholas Irizarry. So hopefully you'll get some good information from him. Then let's go ahead and go to our resources. OCHealthInfo.com is the one where you can get all the numbers per city for COVID-19. Then we have cdc.gov, covid19.ca.gov. And then also there's the county hotline you could call, 714-834-2000. You could always go to our website, which is LagunaWoodsVillageAlerts.com. And then, of course, you could always email any question to info@LagunaWoodsVillage.com. Our weather, as I had mentioned yesterday, is still going to be very warm today. And then we don't start our cooling till around Monday or Tuesday. But Saturday, we're at 89, 68. Tomorrow, 86, 66. And then by Monday, 85, 66. And if you're traveling around town, it is very hot in Palm Springs as well as even hot in Mammoth and Big Bear. The beaches is the only reprieve. 80, 65 at the beaches, Mammoth 85, 43, Big Bear 85 with an overnight of 50, and then Palm Springs average about 116, so it's going to be hot. Okay, sunrise and sunset. Our sunrise this morning was 6:04, and the sunset will be 7:50. Now this month we're going to do something a little different. I sent in this picture, and this is from Cabo San Lucas. So what we're going to do for the month of August is I want you to send me a photo of your travels, your favorite photo of a landscape, and then please tell me where it is from. So send those to Laguna Woods Village TV @gmail.com. All right, when we return, we will have Mayor Noel Hatch. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Today I am joined by Mayor Noel Hatch, and he's here to remind us about the census. It's very important, and then to share with us some other things that are going on in the city. Well, Noel, thank you for joining us. How are you doing?
Lisa, it's always a pleasure, even though we're far apart.
Well, no worries, because this happens to be what we're going to be doing from now on, for a while anyway, until we know otherwise. Yeah.
I think it'll be till the end of the year.
Very possible, very possible. But anyway, so let's talk a little bit about what you've got going on. So the census, I know we talked a little bit about it last time. The community is doing great on the numbers, but I think they can do better, right?
We actually, as far as South County is concerned, I think we're leading the pack. We have now 79.5% of response, which translates into over 10,722 residences of our total number, but there's still 20% that have not been counted, which translates into about another 3,000 individuals. We have a household number of about 1.4 residents per household. So we're looking at a potential of about 18 to 19,000 residents in Laguna Woods City, as opposed to the 16,000 that we show currently. And that came about because there was an error in the number of residences that were available. I mean, we're not looking at registered voters. We're looking at people who sleep there even though they may not call it home, but they're there. And the government just wants to count. As you said, money comes to cities who have populations. So Medicare money comes from the federal government, and if we don't have an accurate census, we lose out.
So let me ask you something. What if all of those people came together that didn't fill out the census and they filled it out? Could you give me a percentage of money, what that would make? Like how much more money would that bring to the city if they did that?
I don't know that I can tell you totally, but I'll tell you in connection with the CARE grant program for small businesses that came. That was a population based. So because we only had 16,000 people, the amount of money that we got from the CARE, federal government CARE grant program was something over $300,000 of the 25 million that was allocated to South County. And if we had had an $18,000 18,000 people, which is the correct number, I believe, that would have resulted in some additional funds coming in to help small businesses.
Okay.
But anyway, that would be one example.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, we definitely want to make sure that everybody fills it out. Now you said you went on and you did it online as well as through the phone. Tell me what your experience was like.
I called up the number within probably less than a minute. I was talking to a live person employed by the federal government. And there was an introduction where they gave us some instructions. A very nice gal. I don't know where she was. So I said, take me through the interview process. So she went through asked me all the questions. And within 7 or 8 minutes, it was over and I was gone.
Excellent.
I then went online and went through the same process, filling out the questionnaire to the point where I didn't have to send it in because mine was in.
Right.
Same, and it was so simple and
Okay.
so easy and painless and quick. Yeah,
Well,
so
good.
if we could get that 20% to do that, we would be all right. And as you said, we'll give free ice cream, charge it to the village, and all will be well.
Oh my heavens. Uh-oh. All right, you extra 20%. Did you hear that? We might just get some ice cream. So if we're
I'll tell you what,
number.
we'll arrange for a free ride on one of the senior mobility
That's a great one.
All right, we'll work on that.
All right. Well, hopefully everybody will get those census numbers up and get more money to the residents, not necessarily the residents,
all of
programs.
California. It's interesting because we do. We are the highest, I think, in certainly in South County, probably the entire county. And I hate to mention other cities, but the last one I saw, Laguna Beach, had about 59%.
Oh.
So that was sad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you want the money, you got to fill it out. So that's an awesome thing that they're doing. So everybody keep up the good work. Let's get it to 100%.
Thank you. I mean,
all right. So what else? You have senior mobility program, which is kind of what you just mentioned. Tell me about that.
Well, let me tell you three stories first to introduce that real quick. My wife and I, our primary care physician, our dentist, our ophthalmologist are in Newport Beach. Okay. We drive there periodically as needed to see them and others that we have elsewhere. Secondly, when we came into the city and into the village many years ago, after spending 3 years in upstate New York, I used to travel up periodically to Los Angeles, where I had practiced law, and would do that periodically, and would take the train out of the Irvine station. Third thing is that one of the great things about living in our village is there are a number of Costco warehouses close by. And so periodically I go to Costco, even with my mask, and enjoy a hot dog or shopping and that sort of thing. All of those I have to drive. There may well come a time when both my wife and I aren't driving anymore. And there are a number of people in the village that just don't drive. And so we have this senior mobility program, which when you stop and think, it's an amazing program. One is they will take you anywhere in Orange County at a significantly discounted taxi bucks. You buy the taxi money, say you spend $50 for a taxi fare, and you only cost you $35. So you have a 30% savings there. They will take you anywhere in Orange County or bring you home, as long as either from Laguna Woods or come back to Laguna Woods. Secondly, they take you to the Irvine station, so you can join me and go up to Los Angeles again, or wherever you'd like to stop on that. and that's at 50% off for the fare, about $6. And then finally, and this is the one I think fascinating. They'll take you anywhere you want to go for a non-emergency medical transportation need. They'll take me to the doctors. They'll take you to the therapist, whatever it may be. And once again, that is with they go up to the Veterans Hospital in Long Beach for 87% off of what the cab fare would be. So the generosity of the of OCTA, the Orange County Transportation Authority, and some Measure M funds that we use, and the yellow cab was the transportation, and arrangements can be made at City Hall for some of those transportation needs. So it's really a remarkable program, and at its absolute peak, Lisa, which was years and years ago, about over 1,000 people from the village used it. And now it's down to about 200. It may be in part because the airport no longer is a destination.
Oh, no one's traveling anyway, so I don't know if that's it.
Yeah, that's
I think they're just afraid, you know, a lot of people have been very afraid to go out, and that's possibly what's contributing to that low number. But as things open up more and more, or people feel more comfortable.
It's really an opportunity to get around.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing. And then we waive the massive entrance fee of $10 a year for 2021. So that's for another ice cream cone. All right, so that's that program. We're proud of it.
Sounds great. And, you know, it's an alternative if they can't do something else, if maybe the buses here aren't doing what they need, or. Well,
it's an adjunct really to the transportation system in the village, which is, I used to use that all the time when I had an office in Laguna Hills. So the combination of the two means that you have a certain amount of mobility when you can't drive or don't.
Right. Exactly.
All right.
All right. What else do you have?
Well, on the census, we talked about that and the importance of that. And I think probably more than anything, well, not more than anything, but the thing that's personal to me about that correct census figure, it's a matter of pride. If I have 18,500 people that live in my village and the city, I don't want to show it at 16,000.
Yes.
So there is a pride there. Okay.
We'll get your picture in the newspaper.
Yeah. And it was, you know, just as an aside, this wasn't on the agenda, but as I said, we received over $300,000 for the CARE grant. And we've had 12 small businesses apply and receive grants of $10,000 each for loss of business and that sort of thing. And we're in round 3, which expired on the 19th of this month. And I don't know how many applied there, but we will end up with some surplus money. And the question is, what happens to that surplus money? Whether that stays with the individual cities to be used for other assistance for businesses and so forth. Our hope is that may be the case, or that they will reduce the qualification requirements, which are a little strict and had to do primarily with loss of business as opposed to actual expense that they incurred because of COVID. But that's not in our decision. It's the county supervisor, Lisa Bartlett, and the staff that is administering this.
Right.
So that covers that. And I guess the final thing that we had talked about was more some curiosity on my part as to, we read about the riots, the protests, the conflagrations, and all the things that are going on in cities throughout the country. And it gets a little frightening, I think, particularly for us older people, about what happens here. We are surrounded by a number of communities which seem very static and well protected. So I did a little research, if you can call it research, online as to how we, Laguna Woods City, are rated as a safe place to live in California.
Mm-hmm.
And surveys many times are meaningless, but I went through 4 or 5 of them, and a number of the surveys require a certain population before they will even include you in this. And usually it's either 25 or 50,000, and so we're never included. But there were 3 or 4 surveys that I looked at, which I found interesting. One was on USA.com, and they calculated the California crime index by city rank. And they took data, as do most surveys from the FBI's crime statistics and so forth, and run it through their logarithms to work out a ranking of cities. And they ranked 481 cities or 83 cities.
Mm-hmm.
And they started with a rank, the number 2 city in there had a ranking of 299. The number 1 city had a ranking of about 230 or 40. And it went down into some cities in Los Angeles area that were up to about 100,000 in their crime ranking. And interestingly enough, Laguna Woods had a ranking of 299, which placed us the 2nd safest city in California.
Great.
On that survey.
That's
and then a couple of other surveys showed us as ranked number 4 in safety, and this talks about violent crimes and property crimes, and they comply all of this. And another one had us as number 6. So I drew some comfort that the partnership with our sheriff's department and the city, our own in-house security in the village, the attitude of the people, and just the whole milieu that surrounds living here in Laguna Woods lends itself to peace of mind.
Exactly.
And so that's so I go to bed at night and look forward to getting up.
That's awesome. And I would agree with the partnership is a great thing to have with your own security in-house. Mr. Rojas is doing a great job and stepped right in and didn't waste any time. So I think, obviously he's had a lot of challenges. So perfect. Well, good. Well, you look healthy, stay healthy, wear your mask, and we're all going to get through this in the city of Laguna Woods. I
think so. And stick around, kid. All right.
Okay.
Love to talk to you.
All right.
All right, Lise.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Welcome back. Well, today I am joined by Nicholas Irizarry, and he is here with Align Wealth Advisors. And there has been a lot going on in the market. And also we just recently did our taxes. So he's got some great stuff for us. Well, Nicholas, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
Yes, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about taxes. And, you have a hidden truth of taxes when investing. I mean, that sounds a little frightening. So maybe you can shed some light on it.
Well, what I've noticed is hard enough to see our investments been impacted last quarter, and now we've kind of recovered values. And yet people don't realize how insidious taxes are on our net return, meaning what we take home. So we can just look at capital gains. That's important. And the way to manage risk in our portfolios is to do something called rebalancing. And I love rebalancing, but rebalancing creates taxable events quite often in a portfolio context, meaning selling investments while they're high, disproportionately high, and that creates some taxes, right? So those are things that chisel away returns over time.
Okay.
We can address that today and talk about how to deal with it and what the solutions might be.
Okay. And you do have a couple solutions here that you mentioned where there's tax efficient vehicles and then also tax management versus tax deferred. So will you be explaining those?
Sure. So if you look at tax efficiency, it means, look, let's take taxes into consideration. And by the way, I'm not a tax professional, just a little disclosure. I'm a registered investment advisor and a planner, a financial planner. However, I need to plan for taxes with my clients, but I don't do the taxes. Just make sure we are clear on that. And one way of dealing with taxes is just to defer the taxes. For example, an IRA, a 401k, a thrift savings plan, these are all tax deferred vehicles. And quite often the money is put into these vehicles pre-tax. So no tax at all at the beginning. And it's not until you take money out of these vehicles that you'd be taxed. And the advantage there is that the taxes will grow, will be deferred, and therefore the investment will grow larger until we need it. So you have a larger core to draw money from later on in your life. And the other way to do it is to manage taxes. And those are for what we call non-qualified assets, assets that are not in a qualified plan like an IRA or 401k. And that would be where we manage the net return by mitigating the taxes along the way.
Okay. Okay. Now, what about, maybe help us understand the types of investment taxes? I know you mentioned capital gains.
Yes, so capital gains can be short-term or long-term capital gains. And once again, I use the word insidious. They're invisible, and they creep up and take away the net return if you have a lot of capital gains, right? Long-term capital gains are taxed at a nominal rate of 15%. However, short-term capital gains can be taxed at your marginal income tax bracket and could also push it up. So we want to be aware of the fact that it can go up to 40, 50% capital gains.
Right, right.
And you have another thing called interest, from bonds, and not in an IRA, of course, but in a regular investment plan. You may not be using the money. You're not spending it, and yet you have to pay taxes on the interest that's generated from those bonds, and dividends. Dividends are being produced from stocks, and they're taxable. So those are things we have to be aware of.
Right. Okay. And then now the impact of taxes, you have a chart here that talks about 1995 to 2015. So if I'm looking at this, what is it showing? Is it showing, maybe you can explain the different lines.
Sure. If you had money invested, say, in the S&P 500, all these lines are the same investment. So you're taking this, incurring the same amount of risk. And one is way up high. It goes from $100,000 back from $100,000 back in 1995, all the way up to 2015. And you would have made $650,000 if there were no taxes. That would be in, say, an IRA or tax deferred investment. Okay. Remember, though, that you have to pay taxes when you withdraw, so the profit would be taxable. And then you have other taxable, a dividend that's taxed, long-term gains are taxed, that's another line below there. And last but not least, if your long-term gains and your short-term gains are taxable throughout the process of accumulating money, you'd only end up with $278,000. So basically your investment is chopped in half by taxes.
That doesn't sound good.
I know. And I say chopped in half, to be cut in half, that's a lot.
Yeah, no, that's not good. That's not good. What are some things that people could do to help eliminate some of those taxes?
Well, it's called tax management. And this is going to get a little technical here, Lisa, but there's 5 levels in the higher end money management that we provide for our clients. I say higher end, it's more sophisticated, but you don't need a whole bunch of money. You could have as little as $10,000 that you're concerned about taxes. The first thing we do in a tax managed environment is limit the amount of rebalancing in the portfolio. When I say that, yes, rebalancing is great for managing risk, but we can manage that by widening the tolerance on the rebalancing percentages. So if something goes from 50% to 56%, we may not rebalance until it goes to 58%.
Right.
There's a lot less tax if we don't rebalance as frequently. The other thing that I'm sure most folks know about is what's called tax-free bonds, municipal bonds. We're loaning money basically to municipalities, schools, roadways, infrastructure. And for doing that, we get tax-free income. So if we have any bonds in the portfolio, which we often have bonds in the portfolio, and those bonds are producing tax-free income, we literally mitigate and eliminate the taxes on the income produced by those bonds.
Okay.
And thirdly, it's really important to be able to offset gains. These capital gains that I mentioned earlier, long-term gains, short-term gains, quite often we can eliminate them by offsetting them gains against losses at the end of the year. Now, that's done several ways. One is to just harvest losses, harvest them, save losses so that we can balance them against gains at the end of the year. That's called loss harvesting. And the other way to do it is to sell stocks or securities at the highest cost basis first. That's called tax lot selling. Tax lot selling is if you have Apple shares and you're selling off some for profit taking, sell off the highest basis first so that you're not taxed as highly on the sale of those stocks.
Oh.
Yes, it's pretty sophisticated.
Well, you know what though, that's interesting to know because, you know, a lot of people, some of these stocks now are hitting some highs, especially if they're related to what's happening in our communities and or our country with COVID-19. And so some of these stocks are hitting some high levels. So are you saying that when they arrive at that large number, that is when you sell them? Is that what you mean?
Yes, so sell high, of course, buy low. So if we're doing this systematic reinvesting, which is the same concept as selling high and buying low, selling off profits, buying more securities when they're lower, we can widen the tolerance. We can offset the sales of those stocks by having some losses against those gains at the end of the year.
Gotcha.
And last but not least, we use what's called passive investing for the large capital portion of the portfolio. If you have large cap stocks, S&P, Dow type of stocks, big ones,
Yeah.
and we can hold on to them. They're very efficient anyway, and not be rebalancing and selling off and changing the portfolio very much. We would do what's called indexing those. We can use what's called an exchange traded fund, which is a representation of an index, or an index mutual fund to mitigate the amount of trade activity in those large cap stocks. So those 5 levels of tax management are how we find at the end of the year virtually no tax at the end of the year. It's very important to be able to manage that for a client, because if you can get a higher after-tax return after it's all said and done, you end up with more money in your pocket, literally.
Yeah, and less money that you pay to the government. Isn't that always a good thing?
Yes, and these are all legitimate ways of managing taxes. And we produced a white paper brochure on this high level of tax management. Once again, it's not that you have to have a huge bundle of money, but it's utilized by the largest and best investors that we have. I've got investors in a very high tax bracket. They're interested in managing taxes, and that's how we do it.
Okay, well, awesome. Well, if they wanted to get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to do so?
The best way to contact us is by calling us, 949-715-8585.
And I understand that if they were to call you now, they would be able to get a complimentary 1-hour consultation as well as a copy of your new book.
Yes, thank you. And, you know, these things are available. If you wanted to have a copy of our book, I spent some time putting together a handbook, and it's called a survival handbook, financial survival handbook, for those who might need some help and they don't want to be, how do I say, subjected to the emotional anxiety that's created by all of what's going on nowadays. And the 1-hour consultation would be a way to help design a plan, literally a plan, either to control and manage taxes or to set up a retirement plan, or whatever your goals might be. We can help set up that plan and have a more assured way of getting to your goals.
Wonderful. I love it. Well, thank you so much. This has been very informative. I like the fact that you kind of helped us out with taxes, because nobody really wants to pay too much taxes.
That's right. And remember, accountants account for things. Planners plan for things. So it's about very different.
No, I like that. Great statement. Okay, thank you. You have a great day.
Thanks, like you too.
All right. And we'll be right back after this.